Hey guys, welcome back, episode 35. We're going to continue to discuss a little bit about squat mechanics, only because we've had many requests following our last post of overhead readiness to squat. And we've had a lot of spin-off questions from that, asking us about positions, particularly dorsal positions at the bottom, receiving positions, or dropping into that bottom position, being able to organise and maintain an upright torso. A lot of our guys who've written into us or asked us particularly for this information have been failing with their overhead squats, dropping the bar forward. And this is one good reason why. We see a lot of patients for squat mechanic problems, and one of the things we see a lot of failures with is how they establish a good midline position from the upright torso standing position. So they fail to establish good position before they start the squat, henceforth they can't have it during the squat and they fail in movements at the bottom of the squats. One of the things we're going to show you now is how this relates to overhead squatting in particular. A big area for me of interest, and an area we talk a lot with our patients is about creating hoop tension in the system. So by creating an active stabilization process through the midsection using the right musculature. We're talking about transverse abdominis, internal obliques, driving into the diaphragm, because you get the Valsalva maneuver, you're getting kind of hydraulic amplifier effect through your erector spine in the back, alongside your kind of thoracolumbar fascia, a big web of connective tissue in the back. Using these areas, and amongst other muscles we could go into, we find that you can maintain a much better upright torso position. But what it does is, which is critical, it allows your shoulder girdle to function normally. It doesn't restrict or inhibit or use your shoulder stabilizers excessively in order to make up lost stability. I'm going to show you an example of this now. So if I was to get myself into a squat stance width position, I'm going to deliberately fail to attain a good position here in the upright position. So all I'm going to do here, I'm going to allow myself to stay in a kind of pelvic tilted position, a relaxed position. I'm not going to really embrace my abdominals or try to organize myself in any particular way. I'm going to drop down into the bottom of the position. Now this is the position I naturally assume when I do it this way around. My lumbar spine, I feel like I've got a bit flexed in my lumbar spine, and I just feel like I haven't got as much tension in my system, good tension. The problem here is, and we see with a lot of athletes, is they tend to make up that tension deficit by bracing through some of the lats and shoulder stabilizers, which inhibit shoulder function. So one of the things I do see is this: athletes are unable to actually access their shoulder function. They can't elevate, and try this yourself. You can't actually physically pull your arms into the right position, and you can't actually have any available trunk rotation. A big reason for this is that by establishing the position in the bottom end without fixing it in the top end, we tend to go to more superficial stabilizers in order to make up the difference. We find that some of our big superficial muscles tend to put their hands up and become much more active than we'd like. Hip flexors in particular, the lack of torso rotation here is akin to the hip flexors becoming over-tensioned in the bottom position, fighting to keep my spine from dropping into a further poor position. So what we do is we lose overhead function and capacity. I'm going to show you a second example where we actually have an organized position here up top. So get myself into an organized position. I'm going to actively think about my strategy here, which I've trained a lot, which is about my internal obliques, my transverse abdominis, my thoracolumbar fascia tension, create this hoop tension system, and an amplifier system through my erector spine in my back, the long muscles here. I'm trying to keep those connected together from the very beginning. And what we'll see is by doing this, I'm able to maintain a much more upright starting position. And also, my shoulder function is significantly more available to me. I can access my movement here quite freely. I can access much more trunk rotation than I need. And it's going to allow me to choose my overhead position accordingly. We do need to have the available range and capacity to correct movements above head if they start to sway or move. In the first position, you'll have no buffer for that. You literally will fall forward every time. In the second position, you'll have the capacity to actually save your lift or save your position, which will offload you. And that's what we're interested in here is we see less soft tissue dysfunction and more longevity with our athletes when they attain the second position. They don't start going into defaulted poor patterns, compensatory patterns to achieve success. Give that test a go, guys, and see yourselves. If you fail to set up, how much that limits your rotation and your shoulder function. And then ask yourself, is there any reason why you could think of you're failing overhead? We think is rates directly. Let us know what your comments are, guys, and we'll see you next time.